Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our /IDontWorkHereLady, where Karens refuse to believe people when they say they aren't employees. And in this episode, guys, Karens are getting embarrassed yet again. And Opie tells a story about the time an off-duty cop encounters a dangerous Karen. I hope you guys enjoy the stories. Don't shake your heads too hard. And as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. So I used to work in a pretty popular East Coast grocery store chain called Price Chopper as one of the customer service associates. Part of my job was processing refunds, dealing with complaints, and doing price adjustments. We always used to have this Karen come in every single week, sometimes multiple times a week. I dealt with her for the years I worked there. She always conveniently forgot her coupons when checking out, and she would demand outrageous discounts. She would then come up to my station, and she would try to con me out of more money than she deserved. I'd always catch her in a lie, but I always had to have my customer service voice and tone, or else I'd get in trouble. Well, I ended up quitting and moving on to bigger and better things, but due to still having friends in the area, I frequently visit. On one visit, I'm wearing khakis, a zip-up hoodie, and I'm holding a case of beer. I'm in line at the checkout. The woman's up at customer service, yelling at the associate that's currently working, someone I trained and think is too good to be working there. The woman's thrashing around, yelling at the poor employee when she sees me in line. Of course, recognizing me, she gets this smug grin on her face and she storms over to me. She then says to me, "Your trainee is being extremely difficult to work with. He won't take any of my coupons. He says they're expired, but I know your manager makes exceptions. He won't even try to accommodate me." I just look at her and say, "Oh yeah? Huh, damn, sucks to suck." Hearing that, Karen loses her damn mind and she starts screaming for a manager. The manager comes over to us, baffled as to why he's been called. Karen starts screaming at how rude I've been and how I helped the woman before her in line, and how I was refusing to help her now because I didn't like her. My ex-manager tries to explain to her that I don't even work there anymore, so he knows she's lying, and Karen's putting up a fight. That's when I totally and completely lost my lid. I just start screaming, "Listen, you effing bitch, you are the worst. Every single time you'd come into the store, I'd go into the back and hide because you'd find some sort of ridiculous thing to complain about. You smell awful, have zero personality, and you look like a dumpster fire with lipstick on. I used to walk on eggshells around you because I needed the job, but I don't work here anymore, so F you. Everyone here hates you. We all know you're a scammer. We know you literally do nothing except try to save 35 cents on eggs, harassing hard-working people to get what you want. Do you know how effing sad that is? Also, why in the years of you coming here have you never once bought soap? You should try some. Seriously, it's like a family of squirrels died in your mouth. And the only way to find them is to follow the trail of dead teeth." It was like years of this pent-up anger towards her was just released, and she stepped back and was speechless. I know I yelled more, but for the life of me, I can't remember what I yelled. The woman ends up leaving without saying a word. The manager, who's a super nice guy, told me he hoped I understood, but he'd have to ask me to leave. But to give it a few days, and I'd be welcomed back, as long as I watch my behavior and to never do something like this again. I totally understood why he had to do what he did, and on top of it all, he told me to just take my beer and leave. Don't worry about paying, as he's got it. Thanks, bud. Oh man, I bet Karen wasn't expecting to get completely destroyed by OP that day. Like, I can only imagine how satisfying it was going off on that lady after years of just biting her tongue on a weekly basis. Like, what a win-win situation for OP, right? Getting to put a Karen in her place and walking away with a free case of beer. I live in Texas, and as many of you probably know, here we pump our own gas. Full service stations just don't exist as far as I'm aware. You pump your own gas, you pay for your own gas. With that said, there's an Exxon station on the corner of my shopping plaza, and that's where I usually got my gas. Now, being in a touristy area, this gas station paid host to people from all walks of life. One day, I was pumping my tank full for the week when a lady in a large Toyota minivan pulls up with out-of-state license plates. The lady gets out of her car, and it immediately becomes apparent that she's one of those rich people. Fur coat, expensive Louis Vuitton handbag, you get the gist. Now I'm standing next to her pump as there's two pumps side by side, and I'm about to grab the window cleaner to wash my windshield when I feel a sharp tug. Now, I do want to note that I'm in my black uniform, but I still don't know how this lady thought I was a service boy, meant to pump gas. The lady says to me, "You, fill her up, and don't even think about getting a tip because I had to ask you to do your job." I already hated this woman off the bat, but I still tried to explain politely that I noticed she's not from Texas, and we here in Texas pump our own gas, as there's no full service stations in the state. But of course, Karen was having none of that. She screams at me and says, "No, don't you give me that. You'll pump my gas. Now do it." Now, normally, if she were disabled, elderly, or very nice, I would oblige. But obviously, she was none of the above. So I tell her no. And at that she says, "What? How dare you refuse me service? I'll have you know that I make more money in a day than you probably make in a whole year." Now, what I wanted to say was, well, then you can take that lump sum of cash and shove it up your butt. But what I actually said was, "Look, lady, I've already explained to you. I don't know what it's like in your state, but here in Texas, there are no full service stations. I do not work for this gas station. Now leave me alone." I hoped that she had got it after my little tirade, but no, she's way too stupid, I guess. The lady then says, "Do you know who I am? When I'm through with you, you will..." I just interrupt her and say, "Are you threatening me?" The lady says, "You watch." She then takes out her cell phone. I finally go back to my window washing when suddenly I notice her reach into her pocket. A part of me was worried that she had a gun, but what she had was way worse. Way worse. The woman pulls out a pack of cigarettes, and I thought, there's no way in hell she's that stupid. I was wrong again. I watched as she pulls out an antique lighter and she proceeds to pull out a cigarette next to her open gas tank, next to the pumps. I then shout "no" and reach over and slap the cigarette out of her hand before she could light it. The woman just jumps back for a second, looking shocked, and then she screams, "You just assaulted me. I'm calling the police." I just scream back at her saying, "What are you thinking, lighting a flame next to a gas pump? Don't you know it could explode?" The woman says, "Calm down. I've done it so many times before. Nothing's happened." She then calls 911 on me. I try to leave, but she's got me blocked in with her large minivan. So I'm stuck there, even though my gas has long finished pumping. She ends up blocking me until cops show up, despite employees coming out telling her to leave me alone. When the cops get there, the lady doesn't even give me a single second to explain that I tried to save us all from exploding. Once she finished her rant, the officer asked me what happened. Apart from the fact that the lady kept interrupting, I managed to get a calm recollection of the story to the officer, who of course sided with me. The officer tells her, "Ma'am, are you aware of what you just did?" He then points to a sign that's stuck on the gas pump that says, "You can't smoke." And he tells her, "You almost lit a flame near a gas pump. Are you stupid?" Of course, Karen tries to argue saying, "But he assaulted me." The officer tells her he had every right to. You very well were endangering his life as well as others here. Karen then screams, "Are we done here? F you all, I'm leaving." At that point, Karen jumps into her car and she speeds off, nearly hitting a family walking out from the entrance of the gas station. I just finished my police report and left. The nerve of some people. No, OP, the stupidity of some people. Like, nothing is worse than a self-entitled person who's lacking brain cells, right? And really, that lady's been super lucky that she's been lighting up smokes by pumps and nothing has happened. Because I've seen those videos titled "cigarette gas pump explosions" before, and those no smoking signs are there for a reason. So this happened 5 years ago, and today this memory came flooding back to me, so I figured I'd share. This is also quite a long story, so you might want to grab some popcorn. I'm a gamer, and I was down in London to visit Eurogamer, which for anybody who doesn't know is a huge video game trade show that was being held at Earl's Court. So I leave the event, with plenty of time to travel across London to catch my train. But I misjudged the amount of time it would take me to make the journey, and ended up at the station 2 hours before my train was due. I had a seat booked on a specific train, and I was informed that I had no option but to wait, as the booking could not be transferred to an earlier train. So my options were to buy a whole new ticket or to wait it out. I decided to do the latter. I left the station and decided to have a walk around and try to kill as much time as I could. I remember going and buying a cold drink somewhere and was walking around some nearby stores. I was tired and aching because I've done a lot of walking over the last 3 days and my feet were sore. I end up browsing the video game section of a local store. So like the other post in the sub, I should mention that the staff wear black t-shirts with the company logo on the front. They often wear lanyards too. I was wearing cargo shorts and a blue PlayStation t-shirt and a baseball cap. I also had with me a wheeled backpack thing, clearly not a staff member. So like I say, I'm looking at video games when a guy in his 50s who is clearly drunk shouts, "Oi, show me where to find this thing I'd never heard of." The guy then comes right up to me, but I could smell the alcohol on his breath before he got close to me. My response was, "I've never heard of it. And also, I don't work here, but I'm sure if you ask the guys at the counter, they can help you." The guy was so drunk, and he stood there gently, swaying. The guy just looks at me dead in the eye for several seconds, and then he says, "Find it for me, you ignorant C-word." And then he called me a prick and an a-hole. I wasn't in the mood for all this, and I just say, "Whatever," and grabbed my bag and walked away from him. Now, I was at the back of the store and decided to go down another aisle instead of walking past him. He, in his best slurred voice, told me to get back there. And then he starts shouting loudly, pretty much any obscenity you can think of. And he also said that he was going to kick my head in. I was now halfway through the store listening to him when I decided I'd had enough. And I turned around and shouted, "Shut the F up already," and then turned back towards the door. I figured I'd go to the train station and wait there. Now, shouting at him was a big mistake, because the next thing I hear is the sound of quickly approaching footsteps as this psycho runs right at me. I turn around to find him launching into a running headbutt. I put my hand up to defend myself to avoid his attack, but he missed his headbutt and basically body checked me, causing me to trip on my bag and knocked me off balance. Adrenaline was surging through me, and I got up, ready to pummel the crap out of him. What I saw next was 2 security guards, who I swear had appeared out of thin air. They had this guy pinned on his stomach on the floor. It had only been about 2 seconds, and they had him lying on the ground. The guy was shouting his head off as he was being restrained. The store manager, after hearing the disturbance, comes running over, and he asked what's going on. I just said, "This stupid idiot just tried to attack me," and attempted to walk away. The security guards asked him to call the police, which he did, but he also tried to stop me from leaving until they got there. I personally didn't care about that, and I just wanted to leave. I was very annoyed. The manager put his arm up to try to block me, and I explained that I had a train to catch and I had to go. I even showed him my ticket, all the while he was on the phone with the police. The whole time, the idiot was still screaming. The security had got this guy to his feet, and they were dragging him to the back room to get him away from the other customers. And as they did, he starts kicking at the shelves and knocking merchandise all over the floor. The poor manager, who was both talking to the police and shouting instructions to the security staff, failed to notice that I just walked out the door. I crossed the road outside the store, and I went around the corner back towards the train station. As I did, I heard the sound of approaching sirens. I returned to the station, and I went straight down on the platform and waited. I had about 40 minutes until my train arrived. About 30 minutes passed, and I was approached by 2 female police officers, who asked if I'd just been involved in an incident in the store. I say to them, "Yeah, some drunk guy just tried to headbutt me and knocked me over." They said they understood that I was trying to catch a train, and asked me for my details and if I was able to give a quick brief statement. I said my train was about to arrive, but I could give them a quick breakdown of what happened. One officer asked me questions, while the other made notes in her notebook. I told them what happened as my train pulled into the station. After telling them, we said our goodbyes, and I hopped on the train, finally happy to be going home. About a week later, I received a phone call from a police officer from my local station. He explained that he needed to get a formal written statement from me and asked if he could come see me. I was at work when I got the call, so it was not convenient to do it right there and then. So I arranged a time for me to go to the station to do it later that day. After giving that statement, I have to this day never heard back from the police regarding the matter. I have no idea who the guy was, what he was charged with, or if he went to court or prison or anything like that. Yeah, in my opinion, OP should have not said anything and left. Like, you can't give crazies any reason to start anything with you, especially if they are clearly drunk. And while we're on the topic of people wanting to fight others, OP tells a story of her husband's encounter in this next one. So my husband is a merchandiser. He goes and sets up shelves, displays and such at various stores. He doesn't work for the store, but since he looks like he's stalking, lots of people think he does. It's usually no big deal. Yesterday, he was setting up a new display of household chemicals for a local budget store. Not a dollar store, but similar. My husband's also not a very big man. He's like 5'6" and weighs about 130 pounds. He also looks very young. We both do. He's in his late 30s, but easily passes for mid-20s. The customer in the story was a huge, burly, older man wearing a marine sweatshirt, probably twice my husband's size. So the customer approaches my husband and asks if they have any original Pine Sol. My husband tells him, "Sorry sir, I'm just a vendor, I don't work here. There's employees a couple of aisles over." At that, the customer says, "What the F? Just tell me where the Pine Sol is, a-hole." My husband tells him, again, "I don't know. I don't work here and there's no reason to swear at me." The customer says, "I'll swear at you if I want, mother effer. It's an effing free country, isn't it?" At this point, he's loud and he's drawing attention of other customers. My husband tells him, "Yes it is, and since I don't work here, I don't have to stand here and be spoken to like this." He then turns around and goes back to doing his job. The customer then says, "Either you tell me where the effing Pine Sol is, or let's go out back and settle this. I don't like your attitude and I hate lazy employees. You get paid to work, so do your effing job and help customers." My husband just looks at him like, "Really?" And that's when another customer comes and pulls him away. Probably someone that was with him. My husband told me that while the guy was being pulled away, he kept screaming to be let go so he could fight my husband and teach him a lesson. My husband's not used to these kinds of confrontations, so he had to go out and have a cigarette to calm down. And through all this, not a single employee came to help out, even though the guy was loud and there were several employees around. A couple of days ago, I go into one of my favorite restaurants, a Mexican restaurant, to pick up a takeout order. When I get there, the owner told me it would take a few minutes because they've been bombarded by orders. Not an issue, I'll just wait. While I'm waiting for the hostess to come back with my food, I see some people I know at a table eating. They wave me over, so I go say hi and talk to them in Spanish because we're all Latinos while I'm waiting. The next thing I know, I can hear a woman say, "Excuse me, excuse me." Now, it took me a minute to figure out she was talking to me because I looked around and I didn't see an actual waitress inside. I make eye contact with the woman and then ask, "Is there something I can help you with?" The woman rolls her eyes and she replies, "Yes, I've been standing here for 10 minutes and you won't even acknowledge me. I want a table for me and my friends." That's when I tell her that I don't work at the restaurant, which she refuses to believe. She then screams at me and says, "I see you clearly talking to seated customers and you look like you work here." Mind you, I'm dressed in jeans, a sweater, and that's it. I firmly tell her that I don't work here, to leave me alone, and then turn away completely as I see the hostess and owner coming back from the kitchen. And this is when Karen starts yelling. The hostess runs up and asks what's going on, and the Karen tells her, "You have this rude Latino working here that refuses to do her job. All she wants to do is talk to her friends at that table," pointing to the people I was talking to. She then goes on and says, "I've been waiting for 10 minutes for a table while she ignores me. This is ridiculous that you would hire someone like that." At this point, everybody stops what they're doing after they heard the yelling. And it didn't hurt my feelings at all because I know this is coming from a total random lady who's just the worst. The owner then tells her that I don't work here and to get out and never come back. The woman just stutters a few times before storming out, saying racial stuff under her breath. I then pay for my food and leave a huge tip, all while the owner's apologizing to me about what happened. I told her it's all good, and honestly, it was way more embarrassing for the screaming woman, who had all the color drop from her face when the owner told her that I was a customer. Oh boy, do I even need to say how ignorant this Karen was? Because damn, that is some wild assumption you just made there. Like, I used to seriously think that there's no way people could act like this. And then I worked a summer job at a sandwich shop a long time ago, guys, and I was like, oh, okay, some people are pieces of crap. This story came from my friend's husband, Adam. Adam worked as a police officer from the late 90s to early thousands until being injured in the line of duty. On one December evening, Adam was finishing up his shift when Belle, who he was dating at the time, called him asking if he could pick up a couple of last-minute things for a Christmas party. Since Walmart was about a mile away, Adam decides to go there. He's wearing a thick, dark blue coat over his uniform, complete with vest, belt, and gear, including his sidearm, radio, handcuffs, and baton. He's in the dairy section, getting some cream, when he hears a woman say in a low voice, "Excuse me." Adam turns to look. There's a young woman, maybe college-aged, dressed in jeans, a thick coat, and she's heavily pregnant. Definitely not the Karen type. The woman says to Adam, "Can you please help me get a TV from the back?" Adam's about to use the classic "I don't work here, lady" line when he sees the fear in her eyes. Now on high alert, he leans close to her and he whispers, "Are you okay? What happened?" That's when the girl tells Adam, "I'm scared of my husband. He just shot the officer who pulled us over." At that, Adam looks up, and he sees this strung-out looking man who looks like he hasn't showered in days, watching them with shark eyes, as Adam recounted. Thinking fast, Adam says loud enough for the man to hear, "I'm more than happy to help you, ma'am. Let me page the back, and we'll get it in a minute. Hang tight." Using his cell phone, which wasn't as common as it is now, he texted a fellow officer who was still on duty, asking her if an officer got shot. When she confirmed it and asked what was going on, he told her what was going on, and to alert the manager and to send a couple of units to the store. She responded that the units were on the way, and the manager had been alerted and to hang tight. Once he received her text, he said, "It's on the way to the front. I'll personally escort you there so the manager knows who it belongs to." So he leads the family to the front and makes eye contact with the manager. The manager, who recognizes Adam from previous excursions, comes over. Adam, keeping up the charade, says to the manager, "Boss, I think it'd be good to get this lady off her feet for a bit while we get the car loaded." He said that with a meaningful look. He then says, "It's gonna take several minutes anyway." The manager knows what he means and nods and says, "Of course, come with me, ma'am. My office is just this way." Once the lady and the manager were safely away, Adam and the man head out to the parking lot. Just then, Adam spots the officers getting out of their cars and nods at them. Now, the takedown wasn't as dramatic as you'd expect it to be. They recognized him and arrested him as soon as several outstanding warrants for his arrest were revealed. The officer the man attacked survived his injuries, and the man got a nice long prison sentence for several charges, including attempted murder. The lady filed for divorce, and with Adam and Belle's help, was able to get home to her family. Last Adam heard, she was doing well. Man, I just have so many questions after reading this post. Like, why immediately go to Walmart to buy a TV after doing something as wild as shooting someone? And you'd think, like, the husband would be avoiding anyone who looks like law enforcement after doing something like that, right? Glad to hear that dude was arrested though, and hopefully the wife is living a much better life now. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /IDontWorkHereLady. I hope you guys enjoyed the stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's in our /entitledpeople episode, where Karens are going absolutely crazy, guys. Go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.